Mark 12:31, Jesus says, "The second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than this." Welcome to the sermon, Because You Are. Anybody needing a sermon about loving your neighbor? Anybody living a sermon about loving people? Loving your enemies? Anybody needing something like that? So last Sunday we were talking about around Leviticus 19. And we were saying that most likely Jesus was quoting Leviticus 19 when he was saying, the second is this, love your neighbor as yourself. And if he wasn't quoting exactly that verse in Leviticus, he was having that Leviticus in mind. That's the first time in the Old Testament that is mentioned, love your neighbor as yourself. And then we read also chapter 10, Leviticus and verse 10 that says so that you can distinguish between the holy and the common, between the unclean and the clean. And that's basically the idea of the book of Leviticus, so that you can know what's clean and know what's not clean, know what to do, know what not to do. And we come to the chapter 19, and he's going to talk about loving your neighbor in different ways. We talked about do not reap the very edges of your field, do not go over a second time, leave those for the poor and the foreigner. We talk about do not steal, do not lie, do not deceive one another, do not swear falsely by the name of God, do not defraud or rob your neighbor, do not mistreat the foreigner residing among you. They must be treated as your native born. Love them as yourself, for you were foreigners in Egypt. And that's where we were last time. So today we're going to continue with the verses, and we're in verse 13 at this point. So verse 13 says, do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. And I was thinking about this part because it says, do not defraud or rob your neighbor. So we talked about defraud last time. But I was thinking about rob your neighbor because in another verse before it says, do not steal your neighbor. And I was thinking, what's the difference between steal and rob? Isn't that the same? And I was checking the Hebrew word. And in this part, the difference is that rob is more like tear away or like seize. So it's like I was thinking when you were kids that you wanted to play with something and the other kid wanted to play with that. And at some point, you would rather break that. Like, not for you, not for me. Like, nobody's going to play with that, you know? So it's kind of like that idea. So in this case, you're not taking it from you. You're like basically like tearing it away. It's not for you. It's not for me. So it's like in the context of like, leaving some things for your neighbor, for the poor and for the foreigner, it's like if you go and you would rather like put them in the trash. Not for you, not for me. Not for the poor, not for everybody, not for anybody. You know, so it's kind of like that idea. So in this case, you're not stealing, but you're tearing that away. You're like, nobody's going to enjoy this. You know, do not rob. And if you're doing any of that in any way, do not do it. Stop doing that. And then it says, do not hold back the wages of a hired worker overnight. And I was thinking again in the same context is what belongs to the other person, and whatever it is, it may be money, it may be respect, it may be time, it may be dignity, it may be love. Whatever the other person deserves, give that to the other person on time. Do not hold that till the next day. Do not hold what you need to do now to the other person till the next day. Do not hold like a forgiveness or an apology or an expression of love to the next day. It says, do not hold the wages of a worker overnight. If today is the day to do that, then go and do it. Just don't hold that because that belongs to the other person. The dignity, the love that the other person deserves. Do it today. If you're doing any of that, stop doing it. And then we go to verse 14. Do not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block in front of the blind, but fear you God. I am the Lord. And in this case, I was thinking, it says, do not curse the deaf. And it's simple. You know, they're not able to listen. Do not curse the deaf because they don't have the capacity to listen to what you're saying and to hear what you're saying and to say something about that. And I think in another way, it's talking about the people that are not present. It's like if there's a person that is not here listening to you, do not curse that person because that person is not here to defend himself. That person is not here to say something about that. Do not say things in the back of people when they are not able to listen to you. If you want to say something, say it to the person. Do not curse to death. And it may be because of people, because of the distance of people. It may be because of a language barrier. It may be because of anything. It says, do not curse to death. Do not curse anybody who is not able to listen to you. If you have something against someone, go and speak to that person. And then it says, do not put a stumbling block. So it says, like, do not make any people fall. And that can be expressed and says in multiple ways. You can make people fall by saying things against them, by putting things so that they can fall, by doing things in such a way that they know that you know you're trying them to fall. It says, do not do that. It's not part of who you are. It's not part of your identity. Just don't do that. You know? And it's interesting that in here, for the first time in these verses, it says, but fear your God. It's kind of like if you're talking against people that are not able to listen to you, fear me, because I know what you're saying. Even if they are not able to listen to you, I'm listening to you. But fear God. It's the first time in all those verses that says, but fear God. Be careful what you're saying behind other people's, because I am the Lord, and I know what you're saying, and I know what you're doing. Fear God. It's the first time that says that. Do not put a stumbling block. If you're trying to do that, you're not doing it in front of the person. You're doing it behind. You're just putting the stumbling blocks so the person to fall. And God is saying, but fear God, because I'm paying attention to what you're doing. And it's not a part of who you are, so why you're doing that? You know? But fear God, I am the Lord. Verse 15, do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor or favoritism to the great, but judge your neighbor fairly. And pervert justice, show partiality, favoritism, and judge fairly. I'm thinking that is because he mentioned the poor and the foreigner. So he's saying, like, do not treat people in a nice way just because they have a lot of money or power. And do not just mistreat people just because they don't have the power or the money. It says, treat people fairly, you know? So it's now not about like, oh, now you can treat well the poor and the foreigner and treat in a bad way the power, the one who are in power, or the one who has money. That's not what it says. Because then it comes back to this part and says, do not pervert justice. Do not show partiality to the poor. And I would say it can be said in the other way. Do not show partiality to the power, to the people in power. Do not show partiality to the rich. And do not show favoritism to the people that have money, or also to the people that doesn't have money. Because that's what happens sometimes, that people start like pointing at some people, oh yeah, because they are in the power, we are against them, and we are for the poor, and we are for the foreigner. But God is saying, like, just judge fairly. It's not that you go from one side to the other side, so then you can start talking about the other people. It's that you can sit in between as a holy person and love the poor and the rich. The ones who are struggling, the ones who are not struggling, the ones who have power and the powerless. It's like you can sit in between and judge fairly and treat them in an equal way, you know? And I was also thinking that sometimes what happens is that we judge people based on proximity. So if this is part of my group, I'm going to show favoritism towards them. Whatever they say, whatever they do, I'm with them. If you're outside of my group, I'm going to show partiality against you. So sometimes it's just about proximity. It's just about the people that you like and the people that are in your group. They may be powerless or power, it doesn't matter, but they're just close to you, and you show favoritism towards them, and you show partiality towards the rest of the people. And the idea in here is just bring righteousness where you see injustice. Bring justice where things are not working well. You know, just don't be part of the chaos and just don't be part of the problem. Just bring justice wherever you see injustice. Bring righteousness wherever you see unrighteousness. Bring love wherever you see hate. It's not about like, oh yeah, now I'm hating them because of what they are doing against them. It's like, who are you to judge? You know? Instead of that, he's telling, like, just treat them fairly. Like, show them love. You know? Do not show partiality. Do not show favoritism. And that's one of the ones that if you're doing any of that, do not stop doing that. Verse 16, this one is good. Do not go about spreading slander among your people. I thought that was valid. I thought we could do that. Isn't that fun? I was like, what says that? What's the problem about spreading slander among people? Like talking and saying things. This is what's happening. This is what's going to happen. And I'm against that person. That person's doing something. Oh, what they're doing is crazy and all that. I thought that was part of our, something that we, part of the fun about being human beings. It says, do not go about spreading slander among your people. Do not do anything that endangers your neighbor's life. I am the Lord. And I was thinking about the word slander, because that's not a word that is in my vocabulary. And another possible translations for the word slander is defamation, malicious fabrication, misrepresentation, calumny, false statement, distortion, scandal, character assassination. And if I go over those, do not go about doing defamation. Do not be malicious. Do not go doing malicious fabrication. Do not go misrepresenting another person. Do not go doing calumny. Do not do false statements against other person. Do not distort the other person's name. Do not bring scandals. And I like this one. It says character assassination. Because what happens when you're talking behind another person, when you're talking things about that person, is that basically you're killing the character of that person. First, the group that you're talking about. Whatever that may be. That person is actually like a bad person. That person is not doing this well. That person is doing that in a bad way. That person doesn't have this. That person is doing this in that way. What you're doing is you're killing the character of that person, who that person is. Spreading slander among you. And it's good to think about that way, spreading slander in that way, that when I'm doing that, somehow I'm killing the character of that person. I'm killing who that person is. Just in the name of what I think is right or not. In the name of what I'm thinking is correct or not. In the name of the conversation that I'm trying to have. In the name of the goal that I'm trying to reach based on that conversation that I'm having with this group of people or with multiple people. Do not do that. And then it says anything that endangers. And it's partially talking about, because when you're spreading slander against other people, that can be an endangered situation for that person. Because that can scale really big to something that even if the person is not paying attention or no notice, at some point, that's just going to hit that person in whatever direction. And God says, why are you doing that? Be holy, because I am holy. And this is another time where he says, I am the Lord. It's kind of like I am the one who can say something about someone. Because I know everything about you. I know your heart. I know your mind. I know where you're going. I know what you're doing. I know what you're going to do. I know what you did before. If there is someone that can say something about you or about someone else, it's me. That's not your job. I am the Lord. It's kind of like saying, you are not the Lord. Why are you killing the character of another person? If you are not the Lord, I am the Lord. Do not go about spreading slander. I am the Lord. Verse 17. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Rebuke your neighbor frankly, so you will not share in their guilt. And I was thinking, in the first verses, he was talking about the foreigner, and the poor. So it's kind of like people that are not part of my community. And then we talk about the verses 33, where it goes back to treat the people that are foreigners in your nation as native born. But then it talks in verse 17 about your fellow Israelites. So the people that are part of your community. Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. And the other interesting thing about this is that it says in your heart. Why does it say in your heart? Why is just not saying do not hate a fellow Israelite? And I was thinking about that. And when we were preaching about love God with all your heart, we were talking that the heart It's like the inner person, like the real person, like the real character that you have. It's in your heart. That's like the idea behind heart. And I was thinking, why does it say in your heart? And I think it's because sometimes, apparently, I love that person. Apparently, I like that person. Apparently, I care for that person. Apparently, I'm not doing anything against that person. But in my heart, I'm hating the person. But in my heart, I'm having things against that person. But in my heart, I'm having thoughts about that person that are not appropriate. But in my heart, I'm spreading slander, actually to myself. Sometimes we overthink things and we just spreading a slander to myself. I'm just adding things and more things and more things to myself, and I'm creating a picture of another person. But when we meet, that person is like, oh, hi, how are you? And it's like, hey, I hope everything goes well for you this week. And then you are behind like, Do not hate a fellow Israelite in your heart. Because God knows you. God knows what you're thinking. God knows what you're feeling. It's kind of like another idea is like just be real. Just be real. And then it says, rebuke your neighbor. Rebuke your neighbor frankly, so you will not share in their guilt. It's kind of like it's making connections with the other verses. So it says like, do not hate, because normally when you hate someone, it's because that person has done something against you. That's normally the situation. Or something that threatens you. And for some reason, you feel that as a threat, and then you start hating that person. It's not normally because that person is just a nice person and beautiful and doing a bunch of good things towards me, and then that person just loves me so much, and I'm just suddenly hating that person. Normally, that person is doing something that I don't like. And it says, do not hate that person, but instead, rebuke that person. That means like go and talk to that person and says, hey, you're doing this that is hurting me. You're doing this that is affecting me. You're doing this that is making me think a bunch of things about you. Like rebuke your neighbor. Like do something about that. Go and talk to your neighbor. And then it says, don't let sin come in. Because it says, rebuke your neighbor frankly, so you will not share in their guilt. It's kind of like if they are doing something against you, they have a guilt. They have a sin. But when you start hating that person in your heart, now you're sharing the guilt. At that point, it was the other person's guilt. It was the other person's problem, whatever the other person was doing. But when you start spreading slander, when you start creating things in your mind and start thinking things against that person, whoever that person is, or whoever that group of people is, now you're sharing the guilt that person was, or that group of people was doing. Because of the thoughts that you're having right now, because of the communication that you're having against that person, and the communication that you're having with other people about that person. Rebuke that person. It's like, go and do something about that. Just don't stay there in hate and pretend that that's going to solve anything. Do something about that. Go and do something about that. And do not share in their guilt. Verse 18. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. So if anyone has done something against you, what he says is do not revenge. Do not bear a grudge. Instead, love your neighbor as yourself. And then you will see in the New Testament that God will say, and in the Old Testament, revenge is my job. You don't need to do anything. I was reading this morning Exodus when he is telling the people of Israel to cross the Red Sea. And he told Moses, tell them, be still, and I will take care of everything. And he was the one who opened the sea, and he was the one who closed the sea. What were they supposed to do in that? Like go in and try to bring the water in back? Or there was no way. What's interesting that he told him, He told Moses and the people of Israel, be still, and I'm going to take care of that situation. But our reaction to the situation is now, if you're doing something against me, I need to go back and do something against you. If you're saying something against me or my people, I'm going to say something against you. If you're treating me in that way, then I'm going to treat you in another way. You know? And then we go back to the verses in the beginning. Be holy because I am holy. It's an invitation of sharing in the holiness of God. Do not revenge. Or this, do not bear a grudge. That's something, sometimes we don't revenge. But bearing a grudge is something that we constantly have. Like I have several grudges from different people, you know. This from this people, this from this people, 2 from this people, you know. Like maybe 5 from this other person that I still carry, even when I was a child. Even I still remember people that were bullying me. My dad when he did something, my mom, my sisters. I still carry those things, you know. Do not revenge and do not bear a grudge. And then it says, our verse, but love your neighbor as yourself. Then again he says, I am the Lord. So instead of any possible wrong way that you can take, instead of doing all of that, instead of any bad way, any negative way that you're thinking against someone, instead of that, love your neighbor as yourself. And then Jesus is going to bring that to love your enemy. Because when he was talking about neighbor, he was talking probably about everybody, but then people were saying, oh, he's talking about neighbor. This is not my neighbor, so I can hate that person. Sorry, guys. You know? And mostly we're struggling with these verses when we're talking about the people that we hate. But the verses before says, do not hate. But it says a fellow Israelite. You know? So it's like instead of any mean thing that you can do, love your neighbor as yourself. And as we were saying in the last Sunday, in this Sunday in the beginning, is the goal of Leviticus is to teach holiness. And I hope this doesn't do the opposite, you know? It's like when you tell a kid, do not do that, it's kind of like you're saying, do it. You know, do not do that in the you know? I remember one day we told when baby Ellie started putting the fingers in the plugs, you know, that happens to little ones. So one day we told her, do not do that. And we were looking at her eyes, and she was like, and you were like, I mean, it's like, who taught her that? I mean, where was that coming from? You know? It's like when you say someone, do not do that, it's kind of like, you know? Do not hate that person. It's like, and you're looking at God, you know? And you're like, do not revenge, and you're like doing this and that. You know? It's like, I hope these many do nots doesn't do the opposite of what Leviticus in the book of Leviticus is talking, and God is trying to do among us. And then Jesus is trying to do when he says, but love your neighbor as yourself. And I hope that what actually do is creates a heart that is holy, that is sharing the holiness of God. And that it's doing something like this. Princess has been reading this book. He read the book, and it's from a Colombian writer, Santiago Molano. And the title of the book says, Letters to a Blind Man Who Couldn't See. And it says, I once wrote that I wished I could be a home where everyone fits. I wish I could be a good friend. I wish I could be the hug I once lacked. I wish I could be a silence for those who need to be heard. I wish I could be a word of encouragement that firmly says that everything will be okay, even if everything is a mess. I wish you to know that even though I don't know you, I care about you and I love you. And I think that's kind of like the invitation that is bringing to you. Like that we create a heart where all this is in our hearts. It's the desire to do something for the list. It's the desire to do something for something that I missed at some point. It's the desire to act in love. It's the desire to say to someone, and even if I don't know you, I care for you and I love you. For whatever you're going through. Even to the enemy. Because that person is going through something. And you're here to show holiness, not to show hate, the same of the world, what the world is doing. Hate doesn't fight with hate. But you can fight hate with love. And it's like that idea that holiness is bringing to us. And the idea that Jesus is bringing to us when He's saying, love your neighbor as yourself. And like I said last Sunday, I think the difference between Leviticus and us who are part of the new covenant, us who are part of the group of people that has been washed away with the blood of Jesus Christ, that one thing is to do things to be holy, and another thing is to do things because you are holy. And that's, I think, and I hope, and my hope, is that we are that group of people. In 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, it says, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood. Actually, the book of Leviticus was written mainly for the priesthood, so that they can go and teach the Israelites. But now Peter is saying, we are all now priesthood, a priesthood. And then it says, but you are a holy nation. So you're a holy people. Before it says, do these things to be holy. Now it's like, if you're holy, why are you acting in that way? Why are you acting with hate? Why are you doing those things? You are a holy nation and you're God's special possession. It's like when He says, do not revenge, because you're my special possession. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to love you. That you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of the darkness into His wonderful light. Do not do all the things that we were mentioning before, because you are a holy nation. Be a holy nation. Act as a holy nation. Instead of doing anything wrong, instead of thinking of anything negative, love your neighbor as yourself. God bless you.